30 minutes before the sun goes down because he can't fly at night. And so...
Huey, look at this line right there.
Oh, Lord have
It look like
mercy.
a nice one. Oh, yeah, nice one. Big one, Pee-wee.
If you're a
Backstage, everything feels different. The cameras capture smiles, quick jokes, and fearless moments in the swamp. To millions of viewers, Pickle Wheat came across as one of the most genuine faces on Swamp People. Young, skilled, and completely at home in a world most people would never survive in. But reality doesn't always match what's shown on screen. Because when filming stops, the pressure doesn't. And sometimes what happens off camera is far more intense than anything viewers ever see. Behind the scenes, the environment isn't just about survival against nature. It's also about competition. Territory matters, reputation matters, and in a profession where every season is limited, every catch counts. That pressure has a way of building tension. Disagreements can start small, over boundaries, opportunities, or decisions. But in a setting like the Louisiana swamp, even small conflicts can escalate quickly. Stories have surfaced over the years about arguments, rivalries, and moments that never made it to air. None of it was ever fully confirmed publicly. And that's where things begin to get complicated. Because while the show presents a controlled version of reality, the lives behind it are far less predictable. And right at the center of that world is someone viewers feel like they know. Pickle Wheat. But her real story starts long before television. Her full name is Cheyenne Nicole Wheat, and she was born on September 21st, 1995, in Louisiana, a state where nature isn't just part of life, it shapes it completely. The region she grew up in is heavily influenced by wetlands, particularly areas connected to the Atchafalaya Basin, which is one of the largest swamp systems in the United States. Geological Survey. This basin spans millions of acres and is known for its constantly shifting water levels, wildlife density, and environmental unpredictability. Growing up there means one thing: you adapt or you don't last. For her family, adapting wasn't optional. It was tradition. Her father, Eddie Wheat, was an experienced alligator hunter, part of a long line of hunters who made their living from the swamp. In Louisiana, alligator hunting is a regulated activity overseen by the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. The season typically runs for a limited number of weeks each year, and hunters must follow strict tagging and quota systems. That means success depends on precision, timing, and experience. And those are things you don't learn from books. You learn them by living it. From an early age, Pickle was surrounded by that lifestyle. Boats, water, bait lines, and wildlife weren't unusual to her. They were normal. Even her nickname reflects how early her identity was shaped. Pickle wasn't created for television. It came from childhood, a shortened, altered version of her name that eventually stuck. Over time, it became the name everyone used, both personally and professionally. But what truly defined her wasn't just a name. It was the environment she grew up in. Life in the swamp carries real risks. Water levels can rise without warning. Visibility can drop. And the wildlife, especially alligators, are not passive. According to the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, adult alligators can exceed 13 feet in length and are capable of exerting bite forces strong enough to break bone. Hunting them requires not only skill, but strict adherence to safety techniques. And yet for her, this wasn't something learned later in life. It was part of childhood. While many kids were focused on school routines, she was learning how to navigate narrow waterways, how to recognize safe versus dangerous conditions, and how to assist in preparing bait, often using materials known to attract alligators effectively due to their strong scent. Her education didn't replace school, but it added something different, something practical, something immediate. She also grew up working in her family's craft business, which focused on duck and turkey calls. These tools are used by hunters to mimic animal sounds, and their effectiveness depends on accuracy and sound quality. Creating them requires precision. Testing them requires skill. And mastering them takes time. Over the years, she became highly proficient, not just in making the calls, but in using them. She developed the ability to replicate multiple bird calls with accuracy, something that requires both hearing control and technique. That combination of craftsmanship and field experience made her stand out early. But it also came with expectations. Because in a family like hers, skill isn't optional, it's expected. By the time she reached her teenage years, she wasn't just learning anymore, she was contributing. Hunting seasons in Louisiana are limited, typically beginning in late summer. During that period, hunters work long hours, often in challenging conditions, to meet quotas assigned through tagging systems. Participating in that process requires discipline and responsibility. She stepped into that role early, handling equipment, assisting in hunts, learning how to react under pressure, and eventually doing it herself. When she entered her first full hunting season as a teenager, she wasn't stepping into something unfamiliar. She was stepping into something she had been preparing for her entire life. And that showed immediately. Taking down a large alligator isn't simple. It involves controlled targeting, often from a distance, followed by careful retrieval. Every step carries risk. Yet she adapted quickly. Not because it was easy, but because it was already part of her. Still, no amount of preparation removes danger completely. Because the swamp doesn't operate on certainty. Conditions can change instantly. Equipment can fail. And even experienced hunters can find themselves in situations where control disappears. And those moments are the ones that matter most. Because they reveal something deeper than skill. They reveal how someone responds when everything goes wrong. For Pickle Wheat, those moments came more than once. Moments that tested her limits. Moments that could have ended everything. And moments that the audience never fully saw. Because while the show captures the hunt, it doesn't always capture the cost. But survival in the swamp isn't just about what you know. It's about what happens when things don't go according to plan. Because no matter how experienced someone is, the environment Pickle Wheat grew up in doesn't offer guarantees. Water conditions can shift within minutes. Visibility can drop. And when dealing with wild animals that can weigh several hundred pounds, even a small mistake can turn into a serious situation. According to the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, alligator hunting is considered a high-risk activity, which is why it is tightly regulated with licensing, tagging systems, and strict safety guidelines. Hunters are trained to approach each catch carefully, often using specific tools and methods designed to reduce risk. Even with those precautions, accidents can still happen. And in a setting like the swamp, they happen fast. There have been moments throughout her hunting life where conditions became unpredictable. Rough water, aggressive movement from captured animals, and the constant challenge of maintaining control in a small boat. These situations are part of the reality of the job, even if they aren't always fully shown on television. What makes those moments significant isn't just the danger, it's the response. Because continuing in that line of work requires a certain mindset, one that accepts risk as part of daily life. That doesn't mean ignoring danger. It means understanding it well enough to keep going despite it. And that mindset is something she developed early. But physical danger isn't the only challenge that comes with a life in the public eye. Once swamp people introduced her to a wider audience, everything changed. Suddenly, her life wasn't just happening in the swamp. It was being watched, discussed, and interpreted by people who had never experienced that world firsthand. And with that attention came speculation. Viewers didn't just follow her work, they followed her personal life. One of the most talked about aspects was her relationship with Chase Landry, another cast member on the show. On screen, their connection appeared natural and straightforward, fitting into the overall narrative of life in the swamp. But off-screen, details about their relationship have remained limited. there has been no fully verified public record confirming the timeline or specifics of their relationship or its outcome. Some online discussions and fan speculation have suggested changes over time, but these claims are not supported by confirmed statements from official sources. So it's important to separate what is known from what is assumed. What is known is that reality television often presents edited versions of relationships to fit storytelling formats. According to media studies research, unscripted shows frequently shape narratives through selective editing, which can create simplified or dramatized versions of real-life situations. That means what viewers see isn't always the full picture. And in many cases, it's only a small part of it. As her visibility increased, so did the pressure that comes with maintaining a public image. For someone whose life was built around physical work, family tradition, and outdoor survival, that shift can be significant. Because suddenly, there are expectations beyond the swamp. Expectations about how you present yourself, how you respond to attention, how you handle rumors, even when they aren't confirmed. And that kind of pressure doesn't always show on camera. At the same time, her role on the show continued to grow. She became known not just as a participant, but as a skilled hunter in her own right. Viewers recognized her for her confidence, her technical ability, and her familiarity with the environment, all of which were built long before television exposure. That consistency is what helped maintain her credibility, because in a field like alligator hunting, reputation isn't built through appearance, it's built through performance. And performance can't be edited, it has to be earned. Outside of hunting, she has also remained connected to the craft side of her background. This skill remains an important part of hunting culture in Louisiana, and it reflects a deeper understanding of wildlife behavior and sound replication. Maintaining those skills shows continuity, a connection to where she started, and that matters. Because when people ask what really happened to Pickle Wheat, the answer isn't a single dramatic event. There's no confirmed scandal, no verified incident that changed everything overnight. Instead, what happened is something more gradual. She grew up. She transitioned from being introduced as a young newcomer to being recognized as an experienced figure within the same environment. She adapted to public attention while continuing to operate in a high-risk, physically demanding profession. And she did it without stepping away from the lifestyle that defined her. That doesn't mean everything has been simple. Life in the public eye rarely is. But based on available, verifiable information, there is no confirmed evidence of the extreme claims, hidden scandals, or dramatic cover-ups that are sometimes suggested in online discussions. Those narratives exist largely in speculation, not in confirmed fact. And that distinction matters, because the real story isn't built on rumors, it's built on consistency, on skill, on a life that didn't start with television, and didn't depend on it to continue. Today, Pickle Wheat remains associated with the same world she came from, the same environment, the same challenges, and the same expectations that have always been there. Because long before cameras arrived, she was already living it, and long after the cameras stop, that part doesn't change.